Trump broke every rule except one. You don't bite the hand that finances you. Welcome to the Doomsday Clock. My name is Jean Mercure and it is 85 seconds to apocalypse. Today, we're going to talk about the financial markets, also known as the markets. According to AI, the markets are physical or digital platforms such as stock exchanges or electronic networks where buyers and sellers trade financial instruments, including stocks, bonds, currencies, commodities, and derivatives. They facilitate capital flow from investors to businesses, enabling funding and economic growth. These markets ensure liquidity, allowing easy conversion of assets into cash and aid in price discovery. It is very pertinent to talk about the markets because right now, they seem to be the only authority that Trump respects, the only thing capable of resisting him, of taming him. Why is that? Does that mean that the markets are a force for good? Well, it's like asking whether a lizard is capable of love. The markets are a cold-blooded creature. They are only moved by their own need and their own logic. They need to feed themselves to grow, ensuring their perennity by overcoming anything in their way.
Greed, for lack of a better word, is good.
In my very first job in a dealing room, I learned that reality on a day US unemployment figures were released. Unemployment was down. And the innocent junior banker in me figured this was a good thing. A sign that the economy was strong because households were thriving. Correct? Wrong. The markets reacted as if it was bad news. Lower unemployment meant that we were getting closer to the full employment economy, and that salaries would therefore have to be increased. Hence, inflation would kick back in. What's good for the households is not necessarily deemed good by the markets, and vice versa. And to preempt this, the US Federal Reserve Bank increased its interest rate, which made the cost of money and cost of funding more expensive for most actors. You would think that this would be received by the markets as something negative, right? Wrong again! This was perceived as good news by the markets. It helped the economy achieve what we refer now as a soft landing, economic growth without inflation. But let's get back to today. Overall, Trump's policies have not been good for the US economy. His tariff policy has increased prices for US consumers. His aggressive immigration policy will have negative long-term effects on the elasticity of the US economy. His poor treatment of historic allies has alienated Canada, the EU, and forced them to move closer to each other, closer to China, and further away from the US.
Let me be direct. We are in the midst of a rupture, not a transition.
His cabal against the press, against law firms, against universities is undermining some of the fundamental factors that made the US such a stunning environment for creative thinking and unbounded entrepreneurship. None of what Trump has done in the first year of his second term is good in the medium or long term for the US or for the world. Yet, markets are in the main up. Why? Remember that markets are cold-hearted. What they see in Trump is a champion for deregulation, for unrestrained growth. They see him as the herald for a unique opportunity to build in global economic supremacy. But guess what? This cold-blooded creature will turn on its demiurge very soon. Trump has welcomed the weakening of the US dollar as an opportunity to increase competitiveness for US exports to the world. This is very short-term thinking. The weakening of the US dollar fundamentally challenges its role as reserve currency for the rest of the world. And Trump's aggressive and volatile economic policy is unavoidably convincing central banks around the world to keep reducing their reserves of US dollar in favor of euro, yen, renminbi, or other less politically tainted commodities such as gold. This will feed further weakening of the US dollar in a vicious cycle. Whilst Trump keeps insulting the other economic giants of this world, he seems to forget that Japan, China, and the EU are financing a significant portion of the US deficit. The largest foreign holder of US debt is the EU with $2 trillion in US securities, then Japan with $1.2 trillion. Then the UK with $800 billion, then China with $700 billion. That's close to $5 trillion altogether. How do you think the markets will react when the EU, Japan, the UK and China keep dumping their US bonds every time he insults them or threatens them? US bond yields will go through the roof, making the cost of funding a growing debt unsustainable for the US economy. The markets will then enunciate very clearly a shocking reality that Donald Trump is too stupid or too blind to acknowledge. Despite all its reach and its might, or precisely because of its reach and its might, the US is a giant with feet of clay. When the markets recognize Donald Trump as an agent of doom rather than the herald for unrestrained growth, they will turn on him. The cold-blooded creature currently in bed with Donald Trump will stretch itself alongside him and size him up for a gluttonous digestion. I would like to know in the comments, when do you think that the markets will crunch, swallow and digest the Donald? Bon appétit! And good riddance, Donald.